family business as a concept as we know it now isn't that old. In fact, if you really wanted to find out how conflicts in family business were being resolved, you needn't come to me. You just go to those wazees of Rwadia, or the Jabini, Kina Kirimo and others of those days who came out to this city to do business as family, as friends, as relatives, and everything else. And they would tell you a lot of things. They will tell you that the last thing you ever did is going to court. And they will show you other methods of getting disagreements. Move, learn away from the word dispute to disagreements. Disagreements import that there is more than one thought processes on something, and there are alternatives to something. It's slightly different from our definition of just this dispute. Whereas I think in family business is a more appropriate language, because it is the conflict usually relates to how management is worked out and how profits are shared. These are the two areas where in family business conflicts arise. And this now applies generally to conflict, not family business. Conflict management or conflict generally. Before independence, before colonization, our communities had conflicts, disagreements, both within the families, within the clans, and even outside inter-community disputes. The disputes exist because disputes are as old as humanity. They didn't just begin. As you know, the very first ones was in the Adam family, where Kaini and Abel went out there and had a dispute. So dispute haven't come in recent years. It's been there all the time. And they were resolved all the time. So even if we are only being logical, we must agree there was a way that disputes were resolved other than what we now know from the Mzungu, from the colonialists. Because the colonialists, when he came into our country, his first and prime obligation was to get hold of our minds, to stop us thinking the way we have always thought. Because we always thought we were people and we were fully and able to do our things, and so on and so forth. He came and told us, no, you don't know anything, you are not capable of knowing anything, and anything you say you know is primitive, it is bad, it is diabolical. Even some would tell us that. Because some called some of the things we did as diabolical. And they made every effort to make that happen, even to the extent of actually building disputes amongst us, telling us that the Kikuyus are bad people, the Luos are good people, the Kalenjin are worse, and what everybody was compartmentalized.
Yeah, that word.
In a class, and depending on who is being spoken to, he was given one adjective. When he is speaking to the other person, he gets another adjective, and so on. And of course, their first duty was to show us that we can't actually solve our disputes.
Right.
If we want disputes resolved, then we must go to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they came and set up an administration which contained actually a civil administrator and a judicial authority, either in the form of a magistrate or, for instance, the provincial commissioners of the colonial days were both administrators and magistrates of the first class. They would do both jobs. They would administer and they would resolve disputes when disputes arose. Now, and that is resolving disputes in a way which is it isn't in fact resolving disputes. It is determining the rights and interests of the groups or of the individuals. And they would tell us that if you have a dispute, take it to the DC, take it to the chief. And 1928, as we know, they passed is it famous or infamous? I think it is infamous Chief's Authority Act. It really made the chief the everything. Anything you want to do, it was the chief who would determine what is to be done. Anything you didn't like, it is the chief you took it to. If the chief became the central person with authority over anybody, the Chief's Authority Act gave the chief the authority to do anything on the natives. Of course, the Chief's Authority Act did not apply to Europeans, it did not apply to Indians, it did not apply to them, but it only applies to the people described as natives. So we began to believe it, to believe that we cannot now sit the way we used to sit as elders, because disputes in those days when they arose, if it's a family dispute, or even if you want to call it a family business or whatever, a family concern, all that would happen is that certain persons known for their wisdom and for their fairness, and in most of our communities described as elders. I don't think they were described as elders merely for their age, because some were not as old as that, but for their standing. And these elders are the ones who would convene at the bottom of some tree in the neighborhood, and they would discuss. And they used to do it this way. They would first of all discuss themselves without the protagonists. Then they would call the protagonists. The protagonists would come in one by one, and people who are supporting a proposition would also come in one by one. We ran down as to this and that and that. And then the protagonists would withdraw from the elders, Kiyama, and the elders would then deliberate. Very much the same as some courts do now. They would then deliberate. They would look at the dispute. First of all, the parties involved in the dispute, their relationships. Then look at the causes of that dispute and its consequences. And then when they had agreed what should be done, they would call in the protagonists. Protagonists would be called from where they were hiding or staying, waiting. And they would come to the Kema, and the principal person in the Kema, Lee Muthoga, would it down and say, this is what the Kiyama has decided. You will do this, and this, and this, and this, and you will do that, and that, and that. And you dare not fail to do that. I usually give you, I don't know whether I give you another forum, but I give the example of one dispute I am aware of. Was not a family business dispute, it was a family business. Because it was between a husband and wife.
Okay.
The husband was 75 years old. The wife was slightly younger. And the wife was denying the husband conjugal rights.
Wait a minute. Why?
Exactly, that's the question that
was being
asked by Mr. Chachi. The name of the gentleman is Chachi. And Chachi was saying, look, you're my wife.